So thanks guys for joining me. I am David Brook. I am the owner of a $200 million real estate team out of Connecticut. We sell in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Florida. And I'm in an Infinity room with Jim Schoonmaker. What's up, Jim?
Hey, what's up?
So this is very cool for me because I've built my listings just empire, I would say, based upon using awesome marketing. And when Matterport came out, I was like, this is pretty cool. And so we were able to tour through houses, but I was using them on like listing presentations, and it was exciting for sellers. But I really didn't see a whole ton of like ways that I could drive ROI from it. And I'm excited today that we kind of get to walk through this Infinityy product that you've developed, this brainchild of yours. And so where are we right now, man?
So we are in, as you said, an Infinity room. And the purpose of Infinityy was really to take all the kind of really cool marketing content that's been developed over the past several years and really sort of kind of hit its stride during the pandemic. But it was sort of missing one thing, and it basically was missing the people, right? It was missing the conversations and the feedback and the Q&A that happen when we're in a real property tour. And we said, if we could figure out how to kind of bring that capability into all this amazing digital content, how much simpler and easier and just more effective we could be in a purely digital sense to help people, really kind of purchase our homes, right? Which is what our job is here to do.
Exactly. And so I think for real estate agents, we're always looking for like, how can I get leads in the real estate process? I want more buyer leads, more seller leads. And in fact, I want to be able to sell my listings better. I want to stand out in front of the competition and say, I offer this product and pretty much nobody else right now actually offers it. And when I came across this, I was like, okay, this is a game changer. It truly does elevate the tools that you're using to match the ambitions of what we really want to deliver as real estate agents. And so I was like, okay, this has got to be complicated. It's probably costs a ton of money, all this stuff. And I've just been blown away step by step that that's not the case. It's actually super easy. It's affordable. And the ROI on this is pretty incredible. So walk us around, man. So we're in this listing of ours that we had. This is in Stoneham, Mass. And cool little race ranch. And let's see if I can take us around in here. So we're here in kitchen area. This is pretty fun and easy to walk through. And so this is your customized Matterport experience, which probably most people are aware of, right? But what's different about this, Jim, is I think on the left-hand side here, we've got features, we've got floor plans, and it can kind of really direct us pretty easily if we wanted to one of these locations, which I think is really fun because as a real estate agent, you're going to be checking off exactly where you need to go throughout this process of showing the home, right?
Yeah, what you can kind of think about when you think about an Infinity room is that websites, even listings on Zillow, they're really marketing oriented, right? And what we really felt was missing was a sales tool, right? What does an agent need content-wise and navigation-wise to help them give a really fantastic property tour online? And so one of the things that we do with an Infinity room is we curate the experience, right? We put in the content that you want to show to that prospective home buyer, and then we organize it in some really helpful ways. So that if you need to get to a certain spot, instead of having to kind of navigate your way through the home to get to the basement because you just got a question about it, has the furnace been renovated? We can one-click be there with all these kind of shortcuts on the left. Couple of other things that we've done is we've integrated a floor plan. So you can actually see where people are inside the home. And this is actually really helpful when you're actually doing an open house, right? So let's say you've got multiple people in here with you. Right now it's just you and I. We're going to bring Pablo in a few minutes. But basically, when you get a whole group of people who might be at different parts of the home at different times, we also have this feature called Where Mode. So when you click in this Where button right here, this allows you to toggle between, being able to see the person, but also be able to understand where they are in the home. And that's why if somebody says it can ask you a question, you can answer it because you actually know where they are. You can actually follow people. There's a lot of other interesting things you can do here, but you can see it's well beyond kind of things you can do with Zoom. Like we really tried to basically build a collaboration platform specifically for the real estate decision-making use case. When you're trying to sell a home and those types of things, that's what Infinity Rooms are built specifically for.
We talk about like this metaverse all the time about like, hey, at one point in time, we're all going to meet up here and we're going to buy like digital real estate. Hey, that's not here right yet. At least my team isn't selling land in the metaverse, but we're selling land and property in Stoneham, Mass. And what's really cool is that our clients are able to jump in and see the property at the same time that we are and be able to walk through. But if you're a real estate agent, you're like, okay, but who cares? I can just book a showing as well. Here's the thing is we're not focused, at least I'm not. I'm seeing the opportunity here, not from the fact that someone could actually go out and see the property. That can be helpful, right? But it's the idea that I could actually meet people inside of this infinity room. So Jim, go into that and explain a little bit how someone out there in the world could actually see this property and then I could join them like very easily. How does that work?
Sure. Again, you hit on a really important point. We call it a room for a reason. This is not a video conference that once we hang up, you can't get back to this. This
Right.
is something that exists for you and can be returned to by the home buyer over and over. And in fact, one of the things they can do just by clicking this invite button here is they can invite via SMS, email, or anyone to join them right away. So let's say they may have had the home tour by you and they're interested in the home, but the spouse couldn't make it, or they got somebody else who helps them make these kinds of decisions, because we all know these are important, expensive decisions that we want to make right. They can bring in those experts or their family members, whoever it is, and they can actually experience it like this as well. Now, as far as how they could just find it, you can add it to a Zillow listing. It's really just a link. There's no fancy apps to download or software or anything like this. It's just a browser and it's just a link. So you can put it anywhere. You can put a link in a Facebook post, in a LinkedIn post, emails, texts, anything. And when people go to that Zillow listing and click the link, they'll be here and they'll be able to get that experience. One of the things that's also really powerful, about an Infinity Room is we actually also notify you when people come back. So once you've actually shown them the property and they come back to the Infinity Room, you'll get a text or an email that says, hey, David and Jim, they're back in that Infinity Room looking around. And there might be a good reason to actually reach out and touch them again, just to make sure that you're able to answer all their questions.
I think that's so important because so many times I get questions where people will say, hey, are you the listing agent on the property? Or you'll see, someone and you meet them at an open house and you'd meet them at this very island right here. You'd be like, hi, how are you? So how long have you been looking for properties? And they're like, well, we've just been looking for a little bit. But I have the option here of having actually met them in an Infinity Room in a private setting, because at the open house, you're doing your very best in order to try and make some sort of rapport connection with them. But the reality is that it can be challenging if there's a lot of people at your open house, for instance. And in this opportunity, it's almost like you get to have a private open house with any buyers that are walking into the property. And the cool thing is as well, is that many of the people who are actually seeing this, you can utilize this in the seller aspect as well. And I'll get to that a little bit later as we continue to walk through the property. So I'm not sure. I sent a quick message over to my business partner, Pablo. I think he's jumping in. If you looked at my screen, you probably saw it says easy as clicking a quick button here and being able to chat. And I can also jump in and I can talk in the chat and say, hey, Jim. Why is that important? It's because, at some points in time, a buyer might be able, they might be sitting at home with their, significant other and they're surfing through Zillow or Realtor.com or, some sort of MLS portal, and they actually jump in. They don't want to look at you, man. It's 9 o'clock at night. They're like, I'm in bed. I don't want to see you. And they can actually, be able to just chat with you through it, and you can guide the group. So in this example, I can just simply click. I'm guiding the group, and I can walk everyone through this process. Hey, Pablo, how are you, man?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. So you're our buyer today. Congratulations.
Okay.
Welcome. You and Jim you guys are going to buy 12 Sparhawk as an investment property together. And Jim's been touring the property and he loves it, and he wants your blessing so you guys can put in an offer on the property. So how cool is this that we're able, you're seeing this and you're walking through the the primary bedroom with me. Isn't that cool?
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
So we can actually walk through this property together and I can describe the home. And here's the cool thing that most sellers ask on the transaction. Hey, are you going to be there? Are you going to personally be there on every single showing? You're like, well, no, I mean, honestly, we have hundreds of listings and so it'd be impossible for me. And they're like, well, so-and-so said that they'd be there. Well, here's the great tool. I can actually be there. I can jump in. I actually have a full ISA department that's fully sitting there, nearly 12 hours a day, who can jump in on this property and just walk people through. And so you're able to guide them through the process without actually having been there, which I think is like incredible, Jim. That's why I'm so like pumped up about this product.
One of the things that's really important is you want to engage with a buyer when they're engaging you. So imagine they're picking up the phone and they're calling you, say, I'm interested in 12 Sparhawk. Well, instead of trying to engage them a week from Saturday in a home tour,
Right.
say, look, right now I'm gonna text you a link and we're gonna go through it together, just like we're doing it right now. And again, you can bring up all the features, all the reasons why you think this is actually a really great home for them. And at a minimum, even if they don't like the home, you're building that relationship, right? You're starting to really engage with that buyer in a way that is just not possible if they're just looking at a Matterport on a Zillow listing. And we really, that's what we really wanted to do, is bring that relationship building aspect into this.
And that's what sellers are looking for, right? Like sellers want buyers and they want the person who feels like they understand the home best to be able to represent that home best to the buyers. And you're in this position where you're like, well, I don't always get that opportunity. Sometimes they're going to be represented by someone else. Here's the great thing. You can pop into the room and just as you normally would as a real estate agent, hi, are you represented by another broker right now? I want to make sure I don't step on any toes. Certainly happy to provide you information. It'd be my delight to sell the property, but just want to be clear, I do represent the seller in this. And many times they're like, no, I'm not signed with anyone. You're like, great. Going through normal questions of asking throughout the process, how are you and how long you've been looking for homes? And they're like, nobody else is doing this. I'd love to work with this. That's how you get buyers. How you get sellers is, there's a great opportunity that you can have as they're like looking at like local marketing. You can run campaigns, which we can get into in a little bit here, Jim. But you can run campaigns, put on your mailers and say, hey, look at the marketing that we do. You'll get notified when someone jumps in and says, here's my mailing campaign to to the Apple Tree neighborhood. All of a sudden you get an SMS on your phone that says, I'm in, someone jumped into your Infinityy room for the Apple Tree neighborhood. Take a look at this. You hop in, you're like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, saw you wanted to see what kind of marketing we do. Were you considering of ever, getting a value on your home? They're like, oh my gosh. And all of a sudden you've got a listing appointment starting to organically develop inside of your marketing without ever, you having to get to a living room or a dining room table to talk about it. I just think that's so interesting to be able to do.
No, the ability to show any home to anyone at any time from anywhere is really what we're after, right? And when you can make these connections that simple, so much of an agent's life gets easier. But again, it's not that people are going to not tour homes anymore. That's not the point at all.
Yeah.
But you can do so much better job of pre-qualifying and getting that relationship going and making sure that you're really kind of responding when they're ready to actually engage with you are the things that really kind of get me excited.
So let's just ask this, Pablo. How did it look when you we clicked send SMS to you? Was it just simply a text message?
Yep, it was just a text message.
And then you clicked the button, and then what did it ask you?
It just simply asked me to type in my name, in this case Pablo, and then it brought me straight to the call.
Okay, so it's not asking you for email addresses or anything else like that?
Not right now.
Right. But here's the cool thing. It's on the back end, Jim, that if they want to invite someone or they want to really get into it, that's when it's going to ask them about the email address, and that's where we can actually have a lead capture form where now we're driving that, and we can actually see the analytics in the background, right?
Correct. That's what we really wanted to do, is get them into the home, get them engaged. But again, once they see the utility of this and they know they can actually share it with their fellow decision makers, right? That's when we say, okay, hey, sign up. And when you sign up, you obviously have to give us your email. And then once we've got your email, we've got the ability to kind of set up drip campaigns or things like that that can help you continue to kind of manage that lead.
So I'm not sure if we have the ability to jump into the campaigns right now, but just the ease of factor, let's get into that a little bit, Jim. Like, how easy is this to set up?
Sure. Honestly, at this point, all you have to do is, if you've got a Matterport tour, which we highly recommend, but again, you don't have to have a Matterport tour. You could have 2D photos, you could have drone videos, you could have whatever.
Oh, so you can do this in 2D.
Absolutely. You know, it's whatever content you think best markets your home. And, you know, we think that this capability brings the kind of investment threshold of a Matterport up a little bit. Like, you might even use it for more homes because you can do these things. It's not just pretty content that's sitting on the web, something you're using to actively sell. But look, if it's up to you folks, you are the expert. You decide what makes sense. And then that's what you basically email to studio@infinity.com. We get those assets, and within 24 hours, we've got it sent back to you, and you'll be able to kind of do what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I think that's great, because a lot of times, like, you might say to yourself, well, I don't know if I'm going to use Matterport for all my listings, and that's quite a hefty like bill a lot of times. And maybe you've got a property that's not $875,000, right? Maybe you've got something that's like 250, 300, but you realize for yourself, well, wait a second, I want to make sure that I at least generate a buyer lead off of this to make it worth my while. And in order to do that, how would I do that really easily? Well, I'm going to grab an Infinityy product like this. I'm going to go and put my listing as a coming soon with this link available, and now all of a sudden I've got the ability to market it to a whole bunch of people and have conversations with them in a really unique way. So I think that's super interesting. Now tell me about the process. What if we have like a listing coordinator, right? So they're just simply emailing over the photos that they already get, and it just pops back to them in 24 hours?
Exactly. And then very shortly, we are going to be offering a self-service option where we would just basically have the tools that we're using and provide those to your listing coordinators, and they would be able to, you know, again, it really can be done in minutes. It takes almost no time to actually set these things up.
Great. Okay. So it's easy for the buyer to use. The seller has an elevated listing process, so they realize that their home actually can be marketed to more buyers. And as those buyers tour, while they're sitting with their phones in their hand, my agents actually can jump into a phone call with them, or at least jump into the chat with them. I mean, how cool is that, right? You're on Zillow and it's like, hey, what's up? I'm the agent, without them actually like clicking the button there. Like, that's kind of cool. So I can do that. So it's a win for the buyer, it's a win for the seller, and then for the agent, it's actually an easy experience, because I know myself, like, I'm the worst with inputting all the details into my listing. That's why I have some awesome people on my team for. So they can just literally send those assets out to Infinityy, and Infinityy will return the product with around 24-hour turnaround time.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think this product is pretty incredible, Jim. So
no, I mean, I don't think this is hyperbole, but we think this is the biggest thing to hit real estate since Zillow. It's that big an idea. When you can suddenly take all of the content that's in over the decades of the past, and suddenly we can experience it together, right? That's a big deal, and it opens up a lot of different avenues of ways that can be done more efficiently, so that you as a broker can do more, but it also makes you much more effective. So you can convert those leads, you can get more out of the investment in your marketing. So your Zillow marketing, your lead buying that you're actually doing will actually yield more sales because you're involved. Like, instead of waiting for Zillow to deliver you a deal, you're actually actively engaged in working those leads as soon as Zillow gets them. Because as soon as somebody has an Infinityy room, you've got a connection to that lead.
Well, let's make sense of this too, because a lot of times people are like, well, I want the agent that knows the property. Well, even more importantly than that, I think that this is incredible, because you can actually be the agent who is the local market expert. So on this left-hand side, we didn't cover this yet, but you've incorporated that Google Maps or Google Street view right directly into this. So we can actually see why this property is so valuable. It's located right next to Colonial Park School, and we can see the area from here. We can actually hop into the neighborhood, and we can see, let's look at the house outside. We can go to the walking trails. That's pretty important as well if you're talking about it. It's one thing to say, hey guys, it's located right near the walking trails. We can input this directly in, and the Infinity team can allow, put some access to that as long as we point to it where it is, where it's located. And then the schools, let's talk about this. Why are, certain towns so interesting to live in or important to live in? Well, that's because of the school systems. Well, let's look, what do those schools look like? And instead of having a customer being like, well, let's Google what are the schools, jump on greatschools.org or whatever it is, we're going to put that right in there for them. And it's really important. Oh, I heard your son really, likes to play baseball, or your daughter's great at softball. Like, here's where they would be playing. And it's that cool that you can immerse them not only in the home, but also in the neighborhood in one platform. And I think that allows you, again, guys, I think this is the opportunity, is to be able to allow us to get right back in to developing rapport and relationship with people in the process of a tour, right?
Exactly. Again, you can even, like you said, you can even embed websites from other places. The point is, all the information that your buyer would have to kind of go search for on their own, you want to kind of pre-package and provide that kind of guided tour experience so that they can actually have all that information at their fingertips.
I think one of the cool things too that I love about showings is that's my time where I'm not selling a property, I'm selling the experience of what it's gonna feel like when you live here. And I can do that really effectively in a product like this. And I don't have to worry about, especially if it's in a summer market, spring market, there's lots of showings happening, we're having a challenge at getting in. I can actually truly spend time with people in this sort of a platform. We've been on this for several minutes now already, and time elapses quickly. But sometimes you're on a showing and you're like, guys, we got to get out the door. We've got another showing behind us. We only get 15 minutes here. That's really tough. But in this sort of an environment, I can actually cultivate that relationship with people, and we can talk about other properties, etc. And it's a great way to again build that rapport in order to secure them as a client.
Yeah, for sure. And even helps them because they've seen so many homes, to be able to remind them of your home by not just, again, a website, but actually allowing them to go back in, experience it, remember, again, even in the chat, excuse me, notes on the right, you can keep those, all those stay in the Infinity room. So you remember what you liked or what questions you might have had.
These are unique to every single person. So like if we create a new room and Pablo invites someone else, it's a brand new room with all that chats, somewhere else. So how do we maintain all of that? What's the ease of that? What's the difficulty of that?
Sure. So I'm going to just go into what we call the dashboard. Inside this dashboard, we've got a bunch of different things that we can do. We've got our list of rooms that we've curated or offered to people. We can actually go in and look at those, the activity associated with those particular spots, basically we can create campaigns. That's the thing I was actually going to show you, where we can actually basically go in and create a unique link that you would use to market a certain way. So if you wanted to say, put it on your website or put it in Zillow, you can just create a specific link that's just for Zillow. And for that, now you'd be able to track all the visitors and all the leads that actually came from that link on Zillow. You could do the same thing with Facebook, same thing with LinkedIn, et cetera, and be able to kind of track both the activity and the leads that are actually generated from those channels.
And how cool is this? I remember, so I was speaking at a conference about a week or so ago, and you and I were just kind of exploring this, and we just tested it out. We said, hey, let's just see what we'll put an Instagram one out, and we saw like 18 people within like a matter of a few minutes, like just jumping into this to take a look at it, and you can have a conversation, go back and forth with people, and so what happens, Jim? Like, let's say someone jumps into the room, and then they pop out of the room, and then you weren't able to, you're on a showing. How do we get to communicate with them again? Is there a way that we get to do this?
Sure. And again, that's what I was just showing earlier, which is the list of your Infinity rooms. So again, that you can name them, and then you can get back into them just by simply clicking it and clicking at the enter button. I won't do that now because we're already in one. But that's how you keep track of all these conversations. is basically just kind of this list of different rooms that have been created in the past. And again, when you put those links in those campaigns, those rooms are actually being generated automatically for you. So you can do your own outbound leads when people pick up the phone, and you can say, hey, I'm going to text you. Or it could just be sitting on a Zillow listing and somebody clicks it. That Infinity room is going to get created automatically, and you'll be able to see the activity that.
It's beautiful. I love it, man. So wanted to thank you, first of all, for introducing this product. I met Jim through a multifamily development that we're working on actually in Maine. And I saw this application. I was like, you know what? We have got to talk about this in the residential space, because there's massive opportunity to elevate your listings, to generate huge amount of leads throughout this process, and really take your business to that next point. People are always asking you, especially in a shifting market, what differentiates you from the other 1.5 million realtors out there? And it can be, you know what, I'm available for you, but you're going to attract people who just want your availability. But if it's people who value quality, they will pay for that. They're not worried about paying for it if they can see the value behind it. And this is one of those products that I just saw so much value, and I just had to get behind it. So thank you for that, Jim. Is there anything else that we definitely have to cover for single agents, brokers, team leaders, anything like that?
It's the same thing. It's like what's been missing is the agent. Like it's the energy, it's the knowledge, it's the experience, it's the knowledge of we need to get that into the conversation that's happening digitally. And when you think about the average home buyer age right now, these people are digital natives, right? They are people who are familiar with technology, and they want to engage this way. Right now, they're just self-educating all by themselves without you there, right? How do we actually provide a platform that allows the conversation to begin again? Because that's really what's missing.
I think that's fantastic. And some of the stuff that I've seen that's been very helpful for me is we listed properties time and again. And when you're listing it online and you see, I run a team of over 50 real estate agents. You see a property that goes online, you're like, okay, I want to make sure that one of my agents is really marketing this, not only like through our team systems, but like, how are they following up with that? You might just be a solo agent if you're watching this, but as a team leader or a broker, you have the ability to jump in and oversight one of the options that Infinityy offers, to be able to see how each Infinityy room is going, follow up that's occurring. You can see the analytics behind it. How many people are getting driven? Are they creating campaigns, not creating campaigns? How are they driving traffic or not driving traffic? And I just thought that was so important that, we had to utilize that for our crew.
Yeah, indeed. And one of the things we haven't talked about is the ability to kind of train people, right? So, particularly if you've got to have, new folks coming on, more senior people can get on with junior people and really kind of share how it is to actually, market a home effectively.
I love it. Thanks so much, Jim. I appreciate it, man. This has been really revolutionary for my team and staying cutting edge in the industry as we strive to grow. So looking forward to working more with this product with you, not only in multifamily, but residential too.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
All right, cool. Thanks for joining us, Pablo, too. See you guys around.